Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Insights Simplified. I'm Namita Jain from Nasscom Insights. I'm a director of research with digital transformation and AI as my core themes. I'm going to be your host today. So, a warm welcome. I can already see over 55 participants on the line. We'll just give a couple of more minutes for those who would be joining us soon, and then we'll kickstart our discussion today. So while we wait, this is a topic that's of interest to most of us today. And in these times, what does it mean to be AI ready, AI first? What kind of enterprises are already moving ahead? What does it take to leap in the AI era? Lots of discussions, lots of thoughts by various individuals, experts, etc. Our session today will be a lot more about what we've heard from some of our surveys. But in the meantime, feel free to keep writing your thoughts in the chat box. We'll probably take up Q&A towards the end. But if you have thoughts, if you are coming across any interesting observations, if you've been actively engaging with this topic, then do keep your comments coming in. They'll be very, very valuable for us. Do also let us know if you are specifically engaging with AI in certain ways in your organization. What specifically are you doing? Would be very interesting for us to keep connected through that information. We keep doing a lot of discussions through the year to inform our research. So it would be good to connect with you and stay in touch even after this webinar. All right, we'll get started with our session today. Once again, hello and welcome to another edition of Insights Simplified from Nasscom Insights. My name is Namita Jain. I'm a director of research working on digital transformation and AI themes, and I'm your host for today. I extend a very warm welcome to all our viewers and listeners, those who joined a bit early and all those who are joining right now. Our topic is very, very pertinent today. It's making headlines. It's about what does it mean to be an AI-first enterprise. Last month itself, we released our first study focusing on understanding this specific group of enterprises who are leaping forward compared to the other organizations. How do we know this? We conducted a global survey of over 500 large, medium, and small enterprises worldwide across about 12 plus countries and 13 plus industries. So that's a good set that gave us a lot of good information and insights into what is going into the making of an AI first enterprise. Our objective was very clear. We wanted to understand three things. First, are there certain behaviors that are deeply inherent in such organizations that have helped them advance in their AI journeys? Second, are there aspects about their shaping AI strategy, planning, and execution roadmaps that are differentiating them from the others? And third, as a set of progressive companies already, because they are ahead in their AI journeys, are they unique in certain ways? Are there certain important things about them? Let's say industry, they belong to a particular kind of an industry, or their size, or something else that gives them a natural edge over the rest. So we'll explore a lot of these questions, and hopefully by the time we end this session, you will have certain important pointers to take away with you. I would encourage all of you who are further interested to definitely explore the study. It's freely available on our website. We'll flash the link also and the QR code towards the end. It's a very short 36-page study, but very, very intense and lots of information there. So let's dive in with our session today. First up, I believe everybody can see my screen, and yes, it has moved. So the first thing that we are going to talk about Defining AI first behavior is very, very crucial to having a clear, pragmatic roadmap. In an environment where the technology is changing very fast, there are multiple moving dimensions and levers around AI, and the fact that it's one of the most disruptive technologies of our lifetimes. It's very important to understand what are certain foundations that help you actually begin on that journey. And this is where we discovered that AI first enterprises are differentiated. So, what we did from our survey data, we kind of profiled organizations into three archetypes. You'll see that AI aspirants, AI firsts, and AI natives. We believe that AI native is a state where ultimately everybody would want to be, right? But majority of the companies would not be there today because it requires a lot of groundwork, requires a lot of foundation, it requires a completely different way of organizational thinking. But let's focus on the middle column, which is the AI first. What are these enterprises? What's their core behavior? First up, the objective with AI. Their objective with AI is very clear. They all want enterprise level transformation. So AI is something that is not experimental. It's not something that is going to give them short term, medium term, maybe even long term efficiencies only. It's not about cost optimization. It is categorically about enterprise transformation. Second, in terms of their current tech architecture, they have modern systems. It's not like they are sitting with a legacy, with a very heavy legacy tech stack and trying to leapfrog into the AI world. No, they have taken the effort to modernize their systems, and some of these systems are optimally ready to take on AI, which means the data sets are unified, there's clean data, they have those policies and guardrails around how to use data, what process and workflows to actually give AI, give those to AI. Third thing, in terms of business architecture, some of their core business capabilities are connected. So these are not siloed. These are cohesive in nature. Whether they are in a functional vertical like a finance and accounting or HR, or whether they are cutting across their functions, let's say lead to cash. But there are certain core business capabilities that are integrated with a common data fabric, with a common set of modern app stack. Fourth thing, organizational AI readiness. Now, this is the most interesting factor that we found, which is these companies are not set when it comes to the right kind of talent. No, that's not the differentiating factor. The factor is that they are able to rapidly build that expertise, which means that they are able to rapidly acquire the right kind of talent or train the right kind of talent and also change based on how priorities are changing within the organization. So these are some of the core behaviors that define these companies, right? Next thing we will look at is what are the factors that are necessary. So we looked at the behaviors, but what factors are actually going to convert those behaviors, which we think are like a latent energy, into real AI action? We think there are four necessary factors. Now, let me qualify that. These may not be sufficient. And in our observation, the first time observation, these are actually not sufficient. There are more things that companies would have to do. But if we were to talk about the floor level, the basic necessity, these are the four. And I'll talk through them and we'll see some of the data around these later. First up, from the bottom, AI spend increase. Now, this is something very interesting, and you may notice it is not about AI spend only. It is about the quantum of increase year on year on AI budgets. That is the differentiating factor. The choice of technologies, we've tested them across classical, generative, agentic AI, and even the governance, risk, and compliance required around AI. In a nutshell, about 17 to 18 distinct technology areas within AI. The combination of AI technologies that these AI first companies choose is distinct, and we'll see that. The POC to scale capability. They are able to scale very rapidly, whether it's at a functional level or across horizontal integrations, but the POC to scale speed is a differentiating factor, and it's important. And also the AI first KPIs. And we'll see how AI first companies are not trying to invent new matrices where it's not required. They are being very selective about where KPIs have to be reinvented and where original KPIs can be utilized. So we have the behavior, we have the factors that are important. There's one more thing that is very interesting about these companies. They focus a lot more on what is going to matter, and they are very, very discerning about what does not matter when it comes to AI success. Let's begin with what does not matter. These are very interesting observations from our end, and this is the right hand side. Company size. Remember, we spoke about what is unique. This is one clear factor that is not unique. In fact, 43% of AI first enterprises are in the mid segment, 1 to 5 billion revenue bracket. Some of the larger companies were lagging significantly when it came to their AI success or AI maturity. So, size is not a differentiator. As I said, AI spend quantum is not a differentiator. It is the amount of increase year on year that differentiates AI first. Interestingly, the third one, the chief AI officer role. This is one of the most talked about roles in trying to make AI a success. However, if you recall about 10 years, maybe about 15 years ago, we had the same contention with chief digital officer. And eventually, organizations realize that it's not about having a particular role, it's what that role brings in. And we'll see that on the left hand side. But the role certainly was not a differentiating factor. And finally, AI democratization. We've heard a lot about this. All these tools just require good prompts. Simplistically, that is how companies are putting it, or that is how people are putting it, which means anybody in the business can use it. Probably that is where enterprise level AI could go wrong. We do see that the companies who have been successful are using governance or central governance in a very, very definitive way. And we'll see more about that later. But democratization here certainly does not mean giving it out to the business units and letting them play with it. Now, coming to the left hand side, what matters? We've seen, interestingly, industry does matter. We've been doing, in the last 6 years, we've done the Digital Enterprises series, which was a similar work, but was focused more on digital transformation. And there we found that industry was not that much of a differentiator. Surprisingly, with AI, we've seen that industry differentiation does matter. You'll notice 25% of manufacturing and life sciences companies stand out in spending on AI in the way they are scaling up and maturing AI. So manufacturing, life sciences have stood out compared to many other services organizations. As I said, experience around making AI successful matters more than the role. Data and cloud experience. Almost 22% of AI first enterprises have their heads of data and cloud driving their AI initiatives, not a chief AI officer. And these are the companies that are doing well. Speed of action. 59% of them set up an AI COE after 2023 when ChatGPT 3.5 came out. But that's not all. Compared to the rest of the organizations, the scale of these COEs has gone up significantly in the AI first. So the speed of action is important here. And finally, I think one of the very, very unique things, we'll discuss this more, is how AI firsts are balancing functional roles and central governance together to make AI successful. In fact, to make AI scale within their organizations. So with that, we'll quickly dive into some of the specifics. Now, what is it that these companies want to achieve with AI? The objectives for AI first companies are very, very clear. It was about cost until last year. This year, it's about competitive advantage, competitive growth, getting out into the market, serving the client priorities, customer priorities, and making sure that internally they are organized in a way they have the right kind of talent, the talent has the right kind of tools and the right kind of use cases to apply AI for growth. So growth is more important than cost. Whereas for other companies, the priority is still around efficiencies, profit optimization, workforce productivity. But AI firsts have moved beyond and gotten real with AI. Second, how do these companies spend? Remember, we spoke about the fact that total spend might be similar. That's on the left hand side. If you look at the two pie charts, the internal one for AI firsts, the outside one for aspirants, they look exactly, almost exactly the same, which means the quantum of spend is not very different. But it's the right hand side where AI firsts are differentiated. Almost 100% of AI first companies plan to increase AI spend and look at how they want to increase. Increase more than the CY25 allocation, almost two-thirds of them. Now, this is a differentiating factor and it kind of flows back from early successes fueling further AI investments. Also, we have to remember that these companies move at speed. So, something about their selection of use cases, the kind of teams they put together to execute them, the kind of budgets they allocate to these projects, and the speed with which they execute, get early success, and then scale, all of it seems to be coming together to then fund the next round of AI projects. So it's a virtuous cycle, and it seems to be giving them significant advantage. Next up, what kind of technologies are these companies investing in? This is very important. We've seen POC paralysis like anything in the AI age, probably more than any other technology. Now companies are talking about token maxing. Even large successful companies, the amount of budgets they allocated to their annual token consumption, they've had to they kind of ran out of it in 3 to 4 months, and they had to stop some of their budgetary allocations to AI usage. So the kind of technologies actually reflect the kind of use cases that have been selected by the organizations and the fact that they know how to put it to scale. We'll start with the top left corner. AI first companies are definitely not in the POC game anymore. 74% of them have moved out, they have scaled their POCs. Compare that to the rest, only 42% have been able to scale successfully. We drill down one level further and we see that AI firsts are actually 2 to 3x more successful when it comes to enterprise scale AI. Now, when we say enterprise scale, it is about use cases like lead to cash, where multiple different functions or functional processes come together to create or to execute one single process. That is what we mean by enterprise rollout versus functional, where we could be looking at just something in HR or procurement or legal and so on. In both the cases, AI firsts are leading when it comes to scale. But what technologies are they focusing on? This is very interesting, and this is on the right hand side. A select few. From the classical bucket, we've seen computer vision pick up significantly. In the generative AI space, multimodal Gen AI, image models, platforms are more preferred. And I've also kind of listed the kind of industries that are taking up. You will notice when we spoke about discrete manufacturing leading, it's actually also showing in the kind of technologies that are being picked up. Agentic AI platforms. Interestingly, a lot of AI first companies are focused on governance, risk, and compliance. And this is a differentiating factor. This is also an important hygiene factor when it comes to moving from POC to scale. So, all in all, put together, this is how AI first companies are budgeting as well as where they are applying those budgets to. Now, how are they executing it? If I have to think about the second differentiating factor or the second uniqueness about these companies, this is what it would be. If you look at the chart, almost 82%, the shaded areas, the ones in the shaded boxes, almost 82% of AI first companies prefer center led funding and governance of AI projects. Whether it is central IT led funding and governance by IT, or it is federated, or it is through an AI COE, which is centralized. What this probably means is that they are able to quickly not only experiment with methodologies that are specifically tuned to AI, but they're also able to scale it quickly because of this centralized expertise. Compare that to aspirants, a lot more decentralization is preferred, but in enterprise AI, when it comes to scale, probably some level of central governance is key. But look at the right hand side. That is the balance. 75% of them are putting their functional teams, whether it is sales and marketing, whether it is customer services, whether it is their legal department, or whether it is teams specifically designed around certain AI use cases that the company is focused on. Those teams are actually tasked to select the use cases, do the test pilots, scale it up, and own the ROI. So, if we talk about an AI RACI, a RACI around an AI project, probably the functional teams are the ones who are responsible and accountable for all of the things that are there in that box, including owning the ROI, because they are the ones closest to the outcome or the definition of the outcome in their functions. The central IT teams or the central COEs are actually governing how these projects are executed. Are they executed within the time frame? Is the organization likely to benefit or not? And once they have the teams right, or the structure right rather, what kind of KPIs? Remember, we started with understanding that not all areas require AI specific KPIs. This is where AI firsts are actually becoming very focused and very, very discerning. They are leveraging existing KPIs where it's standard business outcomes, whether it's revenue growth, the go-to-market speed, understanding governance, risk, compliance outcomes from an AI perspective, because this area is not only evolving very fast, but it also has to be integrated back into the enterprise risk management frameworks that already exist, and a lot of compliance norms that are there from a regulatory perspective, and also the data monetization things. But where they are trying to track new KPIs are some of the areas that are more customer experience oriented or internal efficiencies oriented, where AI is disrupting the process itself. So, the cross profit optimization, operational efficiencies internally of the internal teams, and the CX transformation. These are the areas where they are experimenting with new to world AI native metrics. Final thing, I would say this would be the third thing where these companies are unique. We've seen a lot of discussion about talent. There have been obituaries written about certain, software development roles. They will not be important, or people should go to universities or not go to universities. All of that aside, there is one mindset that AI first companies bring to the table, which is that they are hiring not to build AI. Building AI is not the business for them. It is about running an AI native business, an AI native enterprise. Remember the third archetype, which is like the North Star, where companies want to be. Effectively, even companies who are building AI would want to be AI native to the T. So it's not just that it's for those companies who are non-tech enterprises. It's for everybody. But the companies who we surveyed, which is majorly the non-tech side, there the focus is not building AI, but becoming ready for an AI native environment or scenarios. So 5 major skill sets that they focused on: data engineers, AI builders, AI product designers. Now, this is very interesting. How do you productize using AI, or can AI actually convert a service into a product idea? AI security specialists, and AI change experts. Interesting to note that AI enablement experts, which combines domain plus the art of prompting, is becoming very prominent. Um, all in all, put together, the other interesting finding here was in CY25, the same AI first companies were more focused on cloud specialists, MLOps, LLMOps engineers, data modelers. Probably somewhere with the mandate of AI shifting from generative AI or frontier models to agentic, which means better application, more realistic application in an enterprise environment, the kind of roles that these companies are focused on has also moved. Now, we've seen a lot of momentum, but certain challenges continue to persist. And these are systemic challenges No specific differentiation that we could see between AI firsts and the rest. And these challenges have always existed, which is AI ready data sets. Probably we are not ever going to have the right kind of data. So the conversation moves from having ready data sets to figuring out which data sets are going to be most important for organizations that are scaling up AI and getting those data sets ready. Integrating AI with existing workflows, majority companies, including AI first, sit on significant amount of legacy stack. So integrations there, data protection concerns continue across the board. Resistance because even when these companies are able to bring the right kind of leadership intent, the right kind of talent, displacement myths, concerns, and fears continue to create hurdles for organization wide adoption. So that resistance is very strong. And also some misaligned metrics. Probably this emerges from the fact that AI promise has been a lot more than what enterprises have been able to realize till today. And that is where the misalignment around outcomes versus are we measuring the right things is arising. But some of these systemic challenges continue, and as organizations move beyond POCs to scale, some of these will iron out. But these are not very specific to AI first. Now we've seen what differentiates AI first, what is the behavior, the blueprint, the factors necessary. So in this scenario, we also figured out, or rather, got certain recommendations together as to how service providers need to step up their game. What is it that they need to do to position themselves as the partners of choice? This is like a short, set of 5 things that service providers can do. Majority of these will be around identifying opportunities of co-creation and co-innovation. What that means is service providers stepping in with small successes for their clients and simultaneously working together to figure out bigger and bigger areas of AI-led transformation. So the first thing that service providers will have to keep in mind is while you might be working with aspirants or AI first, but you are definitely going to architect for AI native operations, and that has to be at the back of the mind. Industrializing risk sharing. A lot of these enterprises are ready to do risk sharing kind of contracts, although it's very, very difficult to quantify what is the nature of a risk given the fast changing nature of AI technology. But still, companies are beginning to put certain risk sharing terms and contracts within their tech services contracts. Outcome centricity, more than a KPI, more than FTE hours, more than time and material or fixed cost contracts. What is the real business outcome that AI is going to deliver? Or what is the incremental change that AI is going to create? Build with and for trust. I think this is very, very centric and fundamental because this is differentiating providers who will have the long term play from providers who might end up losing contracts. And finally, investing in frontier AI and domain talent. This is where enterprises are not only looking at what service providers are doing to their internal talent base, but also how service providers can help these companies get the right kind of talent or train their own talent to become AI first. So, all in all, these are some of the things that tech service providers may have to pull all of it together in order to be AI ready. That's what we have in this particular study. There is a lot more analysis in the actual study. I'm flashing the QR code for all of those who would like to download right away. Thank you so much for joining us today on this edition of Insights Simplified. Till the next one, take care. We'll see you soon.